What's next? Quick, what images spring to mind when you hear the word pirate? Is it the salty, swaggering figure brandishing a cutlass, the glint of gold doubloons, or perhaps the haunting cry of ahoy, echoing across the waves? Piracy, or privateering, as it was sometimes called, was once a widespread practice across the globe. But beyond the swashbuckling adventures and the romantic notions of buried treasure lay a harsh reality of life aboard a pirate ship. Are you ready to embark on a journey back in time to uncover the untold stories of these forgotten mariners? Stay tuned as we take you on a wild ride through the lesser-known aspects of piracy. Welcome aboard the Serpent's Kiss. Pull up a hammock and settle in for an evening of storytelling as we recount the often overlooked details of daily life for a pirate crew. You might have heard tales of daring raids and battles on the high seas, but what about the quieter moments that shaped life aboard a pirate ship? Tonight, we peel back the layers of legend to reveal the raw, unvarnished truth of life aboard a pirate ship. Now close your eyes. Let the quiet rhythm of the waves wash over you. Imagine the creaking of wood, the groan of ropes straining against masts, and the faint whisper of wind across an endless ocean. Tonight, we are not in the present. Tonight, we drift back in time, to the age of sails, to a world feared and romanticized, to the harsh and weary life aboard a pirate ship. The image of pirates has been dressed in legend. Stories tell of hidden treasure, of freedom, of adventure, but the reality was slower, rougher, filled with days of monotony and hardship, broken only by sudden bursts of danger. It was a world lived at sea, far from the comforts of land. A world of damp planks, salt-stiffened clothes, and constant hunger. To live aboard a pirate ship was to give yourself over to the rhythm of the ocean, to the constant sway of the deck beneath your feet, to the creak and sigh of a vessel always straining against the elements. When you first came aboard, it was rarely with joy. Few men chose piracy out of longing. Many were pressed into service, captured from merchant ships, or forced to sign articles under threat. The articles were the laws of the crew, written down and sworn to. They promised an equal share of plunder, discipline, and the right to vote on matters of the ship. But they also held strict punishments. Break the rules, and you could be flogged, marooned, or worse. The democracy of the pirate ship was balanced always by fear. Your first steps below deck were steps into darkness. The air was damp, filled with the mingling stench of salt, sweat, and unwashed bodies. Hammocks were slung close together, rocking gently with the ship. Our rats scurried in the shadows, feasting on crumbs and gnawing at ropes. Sleep was uneasy. The boards above groaned with footsteps, and the roll of the ship never ceased. Even in dreams, the ocean was present, pressing against the walls of your mind. Meals were plain and often unpleasant. Hardtack, the ship's biscuit, was so dry it had to be soaked in brine or ale just to be swallowed. Often it was infested with weevils. Salted beef and pork, dried fish, peas, and beans filled out the diet. But fresh food was rare. When the ship neared an island, the men hunted turtles, fished, or stole fruit, desperate for something fresh. Without it, scurvy appeared. Teeth loosened, gums bled, and bodies weakened. The ship's surgeon, if there was one, was usually a failed barber or butcher. With few tools beyond saws, knives, and a grim determination, the surgeon's chest was a fearsome thing. Inside were iron hooks, cauterizing irons, and crude forceps. Painkillers were little more than rum, laudanum, or a piece of leather to bite down on. To lose a limb was common, and survival was uncertain. Men dreaded the surgeon more than the cannon fire, for battle ended quickly, but his work lingered. On deck, the daily rhythm was relentless. Watch after watch, men climbed rigging, hauled ropes, scrubbed planks, and patched sails. The sun scorched, the rain drenched, and the wind tore at clothes and skin. The ship was a living thing, always needing care, always threatening to fall apart. Ropes frayed, sails ripped, masts cracked. Men labored constantly to keep the vessel afloat. And yet, the ship was also freedom of a sort. It was a floating community, a brotherhood of men bound by necessity. The captain was elected, and if he failed, he could be deposed. The quartermaster held power too, representing the crew's interests, dividing shares, and enforcing discipline. It was not the rigid hierarchy of the Navy. Here, every man had a voice, even if he lived under constant fear of violence. Storms were the greatest terror. When the sky darkened and the sea rose, all work turned to survival. Men clung to rigging as waves crashed over the deck. Lightning split the sky, and thunder rolled like cannon fire. Masts bent, sails tore, and water poured into the hold. In those moments, prayer and curse mingled. Some ships survived, others vanished beneath the waves, swallowed whole by the ocean that had carried them. In calm weather, the sea stretched endlessly. Days passed in monotony, broken only by the cry of sail ho. The sight of another vessel quickened the blood. If it was a merchant ship, the chase began. Pirates relied on speed and surprise. They raised their black flag, the Jolly Roger, only at the last moment, when escape was impossible. Sometimes ships surrendered without a fight, other times cannon roared and planks splintered. Boarding was swift and brutal. Cutlasses flashed, pistols fired, and men shouted. Smoke and blood filled the air. The fight was often short but merciless. Pirates fought not for honor but for spoils. Tobacco, sugar, rum, cloth, and spices were valued more than gold. Gold was rare, more legend than truth. Yet the dream of treasure was enough to drive men on, enough to lure them into danger again and again. After victory came division. The quartermaster weighed and counted, dividing the shares according to the articles. The captain received more, the carpenter and gunner their extra, but even the lowest sailor had his share. This equality, however limited, set pirate life apart, yet the spoils rarely lasted. In ports like Nassau or Tortuga, the money was quickly spent on drink, gambling, and fleeting pleasures. Soon the men were broke, and the sea called them back again. Life on shore was brief, but it was chaos. Taverns rang with songs, laughter, and brawls. The law turned a blind eye, or else was bribed. Pirates lived furiously, knowing their time was short, for always the Navy hunted them. Frigates with more guns, more men, and the relentless will of governments at their back. Capture meant trial, and trial meant the gallows. Punishments aboard were harsh, for order had to be maintained. Flogging left scars across the back. Marooning abandoned a man on a desert island with only a pistol or a bottle of water. Keel hauling dragged him beneath the ship, scraping flesh against barnacles, often killing him. Yet despite this, mutiny always lingered. Pirates lived by fragile bonds of trust, always threatened by greed and suspicion. Disease claimed more than battle. Fevers swept through cramped decks. Dysentery weakened men until they could not rise. Bodies were sewn into canvas and slipped overboard, claimed by the sea without ceremony. Life was short, death was common, and the ocean was always waiting. In the quiet beauty of moonlit nights, when the ship cut through the darkness, a strange kind of peace settled over the deck. The vastness of the sky mirrored the immensity of the sea, reminding men of their small place in the grand scheme of things. Despite the hardships, moments like these offered a brief respite from the harsh realities of their existence. And so, the life aboard a pirate ship was a tapestry woven with threads of hardship, camaraderie, fear, and wonder. It was a world governed by the rhythms of the sea, where survival was a daily triumph and every sunrise was a new adventure. We hope we've done justice to the stories of these forgotten mariners.